Today, we're diving into the story of a man who was a researcher, a writer, an educator, and an artist, all in the service of documenting the soul of his people. Let's talk about the Karbi Renaissance man, Dr. Phukon Chandra Phangcho. So let's just jump right in with this question. Who was the first person from the Karbi community to actually earn a PhD studying, well, the Karbi community? This really gets to the very heart of why Dr. Phangcho is such a big deal. He wasn't just some scholar looking in from the outside. He was the first one from the inside to do this kind of deep academic dive. And believe me, that was just the beginning of his story. So here's what we've got on deck today. We'll start with him as a true pioneer. Then we'll dig into his work as the very first research scholar from his community. After that, we'll see how he brought his culture to life through art, literally on a canvas. And finally, we'll talk about the incredible legacy he left behind. All right, let's get into it. The Karbi pioneer. Let's really get to know the man behind the name, this foundational cultural figure. Okay, so when we call him a Renaissance man, we are not kidding. Just look at this list. A writer, a researcher, an educator, an artist, and a college principal. He really did wear all the hats, didn't he? And every single one was dedicated to his community, the Karbi people of Assam. It's like he decided to preserve his culture by tackling it from every single angle imaginable. So here's a quick look at his timeline, just to put things in perspective. He was born back in 1946. Now let's fast forward to 1990. That's when he earns his PhD from Guwahati University, a huge, huge achievement. And then, tragically, in 2005, he passed away. We're about to see just how much he managed to pack into those years. Okay, so that brings us to his role as the first research scholar. And this is where things get truly groundbreaking. He was literally charting the story of his own people through academia for the first time. And this is so, so important. I mean, he is officially recognized as the very first Karbi research scholar. Just think about what that means. Before him, any academic studies of the Karbi people were done by outsiders looking in. His work was a total game changer, because it was the first time the community was being studied at this high level by one of its own. It was a voice from the inside, finally telling their own story on their own terms. So what did he actually study for his PhD? The field was something called tribal geography. Now, the thesis title sounds a little complex, the Karbis, a spatio-temporal analysis in tribal geography. But what he was doing was basically creating the first formal academic map of his people's existence, not just where they lived, but their history, their movements, and their culture across both space and time. And he didn't just stop with a PhD thesis, not at all. He kept writing, publishing these major books in the late 90s and early 2000s. He was putting the story of his people on the record, making their history and their world accessible not just for his own community, but for everyone. But okay, if you think his story is just about dusty books and academic papers, you are in for a real treat. This is where we see the other side of Dr. Phangcho. He wasn't just a scholar, he was a gifted artist. He didn't just write about his culture, he put it right there on the canvas. Now, to really get his art, you kind of have to know some of the stories he was painting. Let's take the figure of Serdihun, for example. In Karbi mythology, Serdihun is this legendary figure who gave the people the art of weaving. I mean, that's a huge deal. It represents the entire cultural shift from wearing tree bark to creating these beautiful, skilled textiles. It's a foundational story, and it's one he brought to life with his art. All right, let's look at one of his paintings. This one is called Sok Katok, which means rice pounding. And it's exactly that, this beautiful, serene moment from everyday village life. You can almost hear the rhythm of the women pounding the rice together. It's just a simple, timeless snapshot of life. But it's so much more than just a picture of a daily chore, right? It's a respectful tribute. It's about capturing that community spirit, that deep connection to their ancestral practices. It's history and culture all wrapped up in a single powerful image. Okay, now for another one. This is Rangsina Sarpo. And it shows this amazing legendary scene. The great guru, Rangsina Sarpo, perched on a rock, teaching his 4 disciples how to play traditional instruments. It's just such a powerful image of knowledge being passed down from one generation to the next. And again, this isn't just a painting of a music lesson. Rangsina Sarpo is seen as this divine guide, the person who is said to have literally shaped Karbi music, their rituals, their whole culture. So what Dr. Phangcho is painting here is the very source, the very origin of his people's artistic soul. It's incredibly profound stuff.
So, we've seen the scholar and we've seen the artist. What does it all add up to? Let's talk about his lasting legacy and how this incredible life and body of work are remembered today.
And this really just puts everything into sharp focus. He accomplished all of this before passing away in 2005. He was only 59 years old. 59. It's kind of staggering to think about everything he did in a life that was really cut so tragically short. But his work absolutely did not go unrecognized. Fittingly, his contributions were formally honored after his death with the Joysing Hanse Award, and this came from the Assam Sahitya Sabha, which is a huge deal. It's the most prestigious literary society in the state of Assam. So this wasn't just a local honor, it really cemented his place in the cultural history of the entire region.
So, when you boil it all down, what was he? I think cultural architect is just the perfect way to put it. He really was a pillar of his community. Through his research, his writing, his art, he built a solid foundation. He gave future generations the tools, the blueprints, really, to understand and preserve their unique Karbi identity.
And that leaves us with this final thought, a question, really. Dr. Phangcho did the foundational work. He built the archive, he painted the pictures, he wrote the books. But what about now? How do we make sure that the stories of pioneers like him and the rich cultures they fought so hard to preserve don't just fade away?